Welcome to the 5,471st meeting of the Rotary Club of San Jose. All right, I'm serious about getting started on time. Did you guys know that Jeff Poley works on a whole series of new piano songs for us? That was a beautiful one by Phil. Phil, yeah. Thank you. Great job. All right. Today's greeting line was our book club committee. How many of y'all are in the book club committee? Not enough, not enough. How many of you want to be in the book club committee? Fantastic. Judge Weisbrot, where are you? Yay! See Judge Weisbrot if you're interested in that book club committee. Always a great time. All right. Guest introductions. Today we've got Catherine Pendleton and Aaron O'Neill on our microphone today. Please introduce yourselves. And
Hello,
if we could bring
everyone.
that down to a dull roar, guys. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Erin O'Neill, the Superintendent of Metropolitan Education District, and my sponsor is the wonderful Larry Stone.
Wonderful. Yay for you, boo for Larry. That boo is for Larry, not for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Pendleton. I'm a co-owner of Ani and Cat Marketing, and our sponsor is Johnny Camus.
Wonderful. Welcome, welcome. Okay, now if you are a visiting Rotarian or if you have a guest with you today, can you please stand so we can get you introduced? Got one right over here. And Jeff, you've got one? Oh, he's got a camera. Come on over. And then we've got Mike Conniff over here next. Yes, hello.
Hi, Mitchell Fulton, Classification Finance. My sponsors, my dad, Mike Fulton, and today I have a very special guest, my 11-year-old son, Noah, soon to be 12 and next month, so happy to be here.
Oh, that's the best. We've got 3 generations in the house today. Welcome, Noah.
Thank you. Hi, President Heather.
Hi, Mike.
Conniff. I'm here to introduce 4 members of the residents of the I-House. They were here last week and they saw that the talk today is going to be about modern warfare, so they want to go home and start fires in their home states. I'm just kidding. I've got Matthew, Godley, DiCino, and Aaron.
Welcome back.
From the International House.
From the International House, welcome back. We're really glad to have you in the room. All right. Hi, Vic. Oh, and we've got a microphone for you right there.
Vic Corsilia, retired internal medicine doctor. I have 2 guests today. My son, Vic Corsilia III, and Tusi, my caregiver.
Wonderful. Glad to have you both in the room.
President Heather, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My guest today is Frank Carvajal. He's a founder of Es Tiempo, a consulting firm, and he's the founder of the Silicon Valley Latino Leadership Summit. Frank Carvajal.
Very glad to have you here. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, President Heather. Kathleen Thomas here, and this is my dear friend Monica Mendez. We went to grad school, and she is an early educator specialist.
Great to have you. Thanks for coming. I think that's it. Cleared for guests? No visiting Rotarians? All righty, we're a little ahead of schedule, which is wonderful. I would like to ask Brian Adams to come up today. We're going to be remembering Ron James. Brian Adams.
There are a few names that stand out as being synonymous with the history of the great city of San Jose, folks who made a difference while the rest of us made it our way. Ron James made a difference. Ron, who passed away peacefully on January 5th at the age of 96, was a husband, father of 5, grandfather of 18, and great-grandfather of 9. As noted in his obituary, Ron's love of San Jose was deeply rooted in the 3 generations preceding his birth, when hardy English miners by the name of James packed up their families and left Cornwall, England, to live and work for the new Almaden Quicksilver Mining Company in South San Jose. The obituary went on to note that using a buckboard wagon to convey household items and produce from the Quicksilver mines to San Jose and back was the birth of the family business in 1888, James Transfer and Storage Company. And as the family business helped people move belongings from one place to another, Ron helped move San Jose forward from one place in time to another. He was instrumental in moving us to the precipice of where we are today. Ron's accomplishments are many, but he was never one to boast. The achievements spoke for themselves. They included being a member of the San Jose Planning Commission from 1963 to 65. Elected to San Jose City Council and appointed vice mayor in 1965, appointed as mayor of San Jose by the City Council in 1966, and in 1967, he was elected as the first directly elected mayor of San Jose since 1916, serving in that position until 71. He reportedly received more than 79% of the popular vote. His successor in office was Norm Mineta. He was named San Jose Man of the Year in 1970, chairman of the board of the YMCA of Santa Clara County. He served on the San Jose Water Company Board of Directors. He was president and CEO of the San Jose Chamber of Commerce from 74 to 90, chairman of the board of the California State Automobile Association from 1999 to 2001. Ron James was also a great Rotarian, having become a member of our club in May of 1952, serving on our board from 61 to 63, and as club president during Rotary year 1972-73. In July 2015, it was a real honor when Ron accepted my invitation. He was the most veteran past president at the time. He accepted my invitation to ring the bell to call to order my first meeting as our club's president. It was even more meaningful as Ron and my father had known each other since the time they both attended San Jose High. Given his humble nature, it's no surprise Ron requested that his service be private. Our condolences go out to Ron's family, especially his children Lauren, Cynthia, Charles, William, and Alexander. So today we take a moment and remember fellow Rotarian Ron James with respect and gratitude for the many ways he made a difference.
Dave Davis, come on up, please. Today, we're going to be recognizing our silver and gold and platinum members of our foundation.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My privilege to recognize and honor the silver and above group of foundation members and contributors and real leaders in the club. Okay. So this is as of last fiscal year, which was June 30th, and you can see the rankings there, but in case you're wondering what counts towards our foundation recognition, it's any gift that you give to the foundation with the exception of polio and Paul Harris, that's handled by the Rotary Foundation itself, Rotary International. We're recognizing members today who have donated over $50,000, and you'll see those in a minute. Okay, the first group up is the new Silver Foundation Fellows, and if you'd all head this way, you know who you are, but the first is Sean Cottle. Thank you, Hope Fenton. And then John Kennett, who couldn't be here today. We'll skip over me. The Fulton family.
Thank you, my dear.
Let's see, the Towery Sununu family. And Larry Stone. I was wondering if you were going to boo that. I didn't, yeah. Wow, okay. The Spino family. And then, of course, Art Lund and John Kennett.
I'm hoping he's online, so I'm waiting.
There we go. Okay, so this group that you see on screen, that's all of the Silver Fellows. So the ones that we just honored are the new ones, and then this is the new ones and the continuing.
Hey, come on.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Okay, next up we have the new Gold Foundation Fellows. You can see the range there, 100 to just under 250. And we'd like to recognize John and Paula Ball. I don't see John, but there you go. And then next up is, as they make their way, Cindy and Jeff Faulkner. Let's see. Next to honor is Dave Henderson. And accepting today, but congratulations to Dave and his family. And then last but not least, Chuck Tennisgetter, and the Tennisgetter family. Here we go. All right. And you can see the list here of all the Gold Fellows. There we go. Okay, the next up is the Platinum Foundation Fellows. And first up is, I can't see from here, Mike Block, there you go. And then Bob and Lenore Keith. Okay, of course. The Joseph, Glenn, and Bert George. And then Carl and Marianne Salas.
And can we have Carl say a few words, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to quickly say that I think I speak for everyone here, but also all of you. We've been blessed to live in this wonderful city. Some of the people up here who maybe have given a little more than you, but whatever money we've given is nothing compared to the $400, the minimum that everyone gives per year. This is just a great city that's provided great opportunity for all of us. And one of my favorite things is that probably 10 years ago, Bert George said in a meeting I was at, give more. So all of you, if you feel giving more is 400, that's perfect. If you feel it's 400,000, that's good too.
Thanks, Carl. And then I just want to concur, you know, one of the great things that we do get to do is we give our time, talent, and treasure. And it's a great opportunity to serve this club and say thank you, but also to give to the great causes that the foundation supports, and it wouldn't be possible without each one of you. So thank you very much. And there's one last thing. So this is a list of just categories of giving. And so you see that it totals up to 215, and 207 are still active members today. So that's kind of exciting. So there we go. Thank you, everybody, and keep giving.
Thank you, Dave. He headed up the foundation for several years there. Thank you so much. And now it's headed up by Audrey Fox. All right, next up, Karen Fox, can you join us for a membership update, please? Thank you, Karen Fox. Good afternoon. As we reach the midpoint of President Heather's term, I am so excited to share that we have welcomed 45 new members. Oops, I need a slide, sorry. There we go, there we go. We only have 55 more to go before we reach our ambitious target of 100 new members. And today I will share why now is the perfect time to do that. But first, I want to give a big thank you to all of our sponsors. They've really helped fuel our momentum. And these dedicated Rotarians, they have each sponsored at least one new member this year. Those highlighted in red have contributed in this past month. And so note that Rod Deardan barely ekes by as the board leader at 6 members this year. If you're not on this list, though, there's still plenty of time to make your mark. A quick reminder to avoid any errors or to ensure clarity, please fill out your membership applications online. Okay. So why now is the best time to recruit? We are witnessing an incredible moment with our dream team of Red Badgers, 60 of them, one of the largest groups we've had in years. And you can almost feel this contagious kind of palpable energy in the room. It's the excitement of more and more new members joining our club every month. And I liken the Red Badge Dream Team to the 2024 USA Olympic Dream Team, which also showcases its exceptional talent and potential. And a heartfelt thank you goes to Tim Gill and Steve Ellenberg, I'm not sure where he is, for their outstanding leadership and support in bringing this remarkable class together. Thank you. But momentum is more than just adding new members. It's also about support. So mentorship from seasoned leaders such as Rod Deardan, Larry Stone, President Heather, John Ball. They shape the next generation of Rotarians and ensure that everyone feels welcome and engaged. So, your final task, take action today. Send a text to someone who should be in Rotary but hasn't joined us yet, and together we can achieve that goal of 100 new members. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you, Karen. She's the co-chair of the membership committee along with Sarju, and you guys are doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much for supporting my just sort of ambitious goal of 100 new members this year. And then the best part is once you're done with your red badge year, which should be the most joyous time in Rotary, then you get your blue badge. Come on up, please. We're going to be awarding blue badges to Ryan Sebastian, Carlos Singh, and Eddie Trong today. We're going to have you walk up, we'll do a grin and grip photo, and then we'll exchange over here. Come on over. You got the shoes. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Get over here. And then you go over. You're going to get your badge. All right, and a photo. Here we go. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Ryan, our pickleball champ. There we go. Thank you so much. Congratulations. You guys, round of applause for Blue Badge. It's so great. I love that Ryan was in his red badge year and started a whole new committee. So there's lots of leadership opportunity for you there. Congratulations. President's time. Look at that. I actually get President's time this week, you guys. I know. All right. We had a bocce ball tournament, and I want to announce the winners here. Tim and Sandra Gill. Yeah. Scott and Mary Kay Payne. And Sue Smith and Jill Podolsky. Congratulations on winning at our bocce ball tournament. Thank you. We do a lot of Fun and Friendship throughout the year. I also want to give a little shout out to Fun and Friendship, who is cranking. Usually Fun and Friendship is firesides in May, and you'll be hearing more about that in a few more weeks. But they have been doing activations each and every month. Thank you, Fun and Friendship. And we did hiking this last weekend, too. Thank you so much to Ashley Hopkins Pass for leading our hiking group. All right, let's see. We've got the Rotary Oscar ballot. I didn't get time to mention this last week. We're going to get your phones out now and scan this QR code, please. Next week, Brian Adams will be back up. He will be the featured program doing the much anticipated Oscar talk, and we're going to want to know what you voted for, and we have a nice little contest for that. So you're going to do that QR code, you're going to do the questionnaire online, and you tell us who you think are going to be the Oscar winners, and we'll see how close you get, and there'll be prizes awarded. I don't have a slide for this one, but I do want you to save the date. I get pretty darn excited about the barbecues. Our fall barbecue was finally back over 200 people, and Rick Alpers would be so sad if I didn't do a save the date for June 4th. The barbecue is a little bit earlier this year. It's June 4th. It's not deeper into June because a lot of y'all are going to Calgary for the international conference. So June's going to be like all over the place. So get that in your calendars right now, and we'll do more save the dates in a little while. And then just as like a personal shout out, well, actually, before I do that, hopefully you saw that tomorrow, I don't have a slide for it, but tomorrow we've got our downtown happy hour, and that's going to be at San Pedro Social. So Kelly Dipple, thank you so much for arranging. She's got sign-up sheets out in the lobby. And then they've also got the mini golf on April 17th. This is, I don't know why this isn't branded properly. I'm going to have to find somebody for this. This is the Brian Adams Mini Masters. I don't know why that's missing, but we'll fix that. Anyway, mini golf, April 17th. It's not the Mini Masters? Practice round, I just heard up here, practice round. Okay, thank you for updating my files and thank you for leading. Alrighty. Let me see here. I'm gonna get myself one more minute. I did something really fun this weekend and has nothing to do with Rotary, although it kind of does because every week I give out those Chandler walnuts, courtesy of Carl Silker, my favorite orchardist. I get really excited about orchards. My grandfather was an agricultural chemist, and I spent so many hours and fun playtime in the orchards around Santa Clara County. Well, now I'm gonna go see those blossoms. Apparently they've all moved to Modesto. So if you guys get in your cars this weekend and do the Almond Blossom Cruise, it will just fill you with absolute joy. It is thousands and thousands and thousands of cotton candy puffed almond trees in full bloom. You're gonna love it. There's a whole route you can do, and there's one place in particular you gotta stop and get an almond butter milkshake and go for an almond walk. That's my hot tip. All right, let's bring up our featured speaker. Come on up, Dave, let's do an introduction.
Luckily for all of you, I am not the featured speaker, so we'll start there. But it is my pleasure today to introduce Chris Kirchhof, who is our featured speaker. Chris is truly an expert at the intersection of technology and national security. So Chris graduated magna cum laude from Harvard University with his bachelor's in history and science. He then went on to do his master's and PhD degrees at Cambridge University in social and political science. And then during the Obama administration, Chris was served as Director for National Strategic Planning at the National Security Council and as a senior civilian advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Chris was then appointed by the Secretary of Defense, Ash Carter, to lead the Pentagon's Silicon Valley office, Unit X, one of 4 partners overseeing the Defense Department's investment portfolio, harnessing emerging commercial technology for national security innovation. Today, Chris is going to talk about his experience at Unit X, as is detailed in his book, Unit X, How Silicon Valley and the Department of Defense Are Changing the Future of War. And we told Chris he's not allowed to plug his book, so I'll do that for him. We have books available in the lobby if this topic interests you. I'll let you know it was shortlisted. It was one of the top 6 books for the Financial Times as one of the top 6 business books for 2024. And I'll tell you, after I read it, I wrote to Chris and I said, it was fascinating, frustrating, and so critically important. So with that, I'll invite Chris to come up and share his thoughts and remarks.
I'd like to thank David for his very kind introduction, Steve for welcoming me here, President Heather, and all of you for hosting me today. It's very kind of you to read my biography, but what's not in it is before I left Worthington, Ohio, the small suburb north of Columbus where I grew up, my own life was very profoundly touched by Rotary in that my high school AP European history teacher, one of the few people in my hometown to have really traveled the world and brought those experiences back into the classroom, was given a scholarship by Rotary to spend some time in Japan. And I vividly remember as a young high school student hearing those stories, hearing stories of others of his travel. And he, in fact, later on led a delegation of students that I got to be on into the former Soviet Union in 1995, just after the fall of the wall and so many giant events. And that experience really opened my eyes to the fact that there is a wider world we live in. And I learned, of course, also of how Rotary is an institution that is a steward of our connection to the rest of the world. So it is with profound honor that I join all of you today here in San Jose. The topic I'm going to talk about today is quite a bit in the news, so I'm sure the questions will be lots of fun. Steve has done a great job in plugging my book already, but I'm going to plug it a little bit more just by looking, taking a look at the cover image. So on the cover image, there's 2 pieces of technology. On the top, you have the F-35 fighter. This is the most advanced fighter in the U.S. arsenal and really in any military in the world. It's a 5th generation stealth fighter, incredible weapons, incredible computing, a heck of a piece of military hardware. Beneath it is an iPhone. Does anyone want to guess which technology has the faster computer processor? iPhone, that's right, this is a tech-savvy crowd here in San Jose. Does anyone want to guess how much faster the iPhone's processor is than the F-35's processor? 1,000, okay, so it's about 100 times faster. And the reason for this is, it turns out in this country, through a series of historical circumstances, we have developed two completely different supply chains for building technology. One for the military and one for everything else. The one that the military uses operates very differently. So the F-35 was designed in the mid-1990s. Its production contract was awarded to Lockheed Martin in 2001. And after a long series of overruns, both on cost and schedule, the F-35 finally became operational in 2016, the year that the iPhone 7 was released. If you were forced in the late 1990s to bet what is the best mobile computing platform, what would you have chosen? BlackBerry, a little Canadian company called RIM, because the iPhone hadn't yet been invented. So this is the challenge to the military system of procurement. It's become very long, and it's almost impossible, given how fast technological advancements are moving, to make a design of a major weapons platform that will still have the greatest relevance it could 20 years down the line. More than that, by the time that Secretary of Defense Ash Carter put me and a small number of others in charge of a new office here in Silicon Valley to buy technology from startups and pilot them in military missions, there had been a very dramatic shift in the US economy. It used to be the case during the Cold War that federal research and development pioneered incredible technology. The internet, of course, is one of the poster child success stories. On the military side, stealth technology is another. But by the time you fast forward to when that iPhone 7 came out in 2016, any one of the major technology companies, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, had a market capitalization larger than the entire US defense industry combined. So that told Secretary of Defense Ash Carter that although defense labs once used to have a near monopoly on innovation and advanced technology, that the locus of innovation had in fact shifted to the commercial technology sector. And unless the military pivoted itself to access more of that technology ecosystem, it would inevitably be stuck using technology that wasn't as advanced as our nation produces. I'll just run through two very quick charts to demonstrate the economic bottleneck that we have unfortunately as a nation gotten into. If you rewind the tape to the height of the Cold War, the 70s and the 80s, you can see at the bottom, the big dark color, that represents commercial companies that the Department of Defense bought its technology from. In other words, the Department of Defense was mainly accessing the regular economy to buy its technology. And over time, by the time you get further to the right, a very small number of defense contractors assumed the role of supplying technology to a much, much larger part of the Department of Defense. And indeed, through the consolidation that happened at the end of the Cold War, what was many, many companies ended up merging into five, known as the five primes. And these aren't actually companies in the traditional sense that we think of companies as being capitalized and able to operate in the free market. These are companies that are burdened with a very exhaustive set of public regulations that order how they're able to operate. And this is for, in fact, a very good reason. It's to protect our tax dollars. If you want to buy, say, an aircraft carrier or a fifth generation stealth fighter, you can't exactly go on Amazon to do it. There is, in essence, not a natural market for those products. So as a result, the Pentagon over the years, over decades actually, has developed an incredibly complex system of cost accounting to verify that the builds that these technology experience, that there's no price gouging at any point, which means that if you want to do business with the Department of Defense, you have to be willing to follow all of the regulations of something called the Federal Acquisition Rules. Anyone want to guess how thick this is, Federal Acquisition Rules? way thicker than a dictionary. But you're not done yet. You also have to follow, in addition to that, the defense supplement to the federal acquisition rules. You have to erect a completely second, non-commercial accounting system so that it can be audited by the Department of Defense. So this is an incredible barrier to entry, and it's why when we get to 2016, the commercial economy had essentially not gotten interested in doing business with the Department of Defense because the department was an awful customer. And that left the department only accessing the military supply chain for technology. So what was this like in practice? This is my co-author, Rod Shaw. He's way cooler than I am. He actually flies F-16s. I write memos. Big difference. This is a picture of Raj in an F-16 over Afghanistan. He served in combat both in Iraq and Afghanistan. In Iraq, a lot of the combat air patrols that Raj flew were very close to the border with Iran. If you're a pilot in an F-16, what is one thing that you do not want to do flying near the border with Iran? Go over it. Could be a bad day. So how does Raj figure out where the border of Iran is? He looks at this. Can anybody see the border of Iran on it? No. That's because when Raj was flying those combat missions, the F-16 lacked a moving map. So as a result, Raj, who often was traveling at 500 or 600 knots an hour, had no idea exactly where he was. So Raj, being an entrepreneur and a bit of a rule breaker, came up with a hack. Back in the barracks, he was playing Tetris on an HP Compaq, a predecessor to a tablet computer, cost a few $100s, like an expensive Nintendo Game Boy, but it had a software application on it that allowed it to run a moving map and by receiving GPS signals tell you exactly where you were. So the way Raj tells it is the advantage of being in a single pilot aircraft is nobody can see what you bring with you into the aircraft. So he strapped this on his knee and used it to figure out where he was in combat for our nation. This was the stack of technology that our military was stuck with. So Secretary of Defense Ash Carter, Rhodes Scholar, physicist, medieval historian, a perfect blend to attack the Department of Defense, said enough is enough, and rolled out with a lot of fanfare a new leadership team of a small office called Defense Innovation Unit X, or Experimental, which was housed and still is today up at Moffett Field, just a little bit north of here. And we arrived with no money and hardly any staff, and were given the mission by Secretary Carter to transform the US military. What happened next is really astonishing. Our members, as well as members of another entity in the department that had also been created by Secretary of Defense, the Defense Innovation Board, which was initially chaired by former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, went around the world and asked the question, where in the department are the ripest opportunities for quick technology updates that would really make a difference in how people accomplish the missions that they're assigned? So this is a picture from something called the CAOC, the Combined Air Operations Center in Qatar, which in 2016 was running the air war against ISIS, the highest tempo modern air campaign, strikes every few minutes or even faster, that, among other things, was helping to prevent the largest possible genocide of the 21st century of the Yazidi people who were encircled for a time on Mount Sinjar and were only kept separated from the militias pursuing them by American air power. One of the things about F-16s, although Raj will tell you they're amazing to fly, they're really greedy guzzlers of gas. And you can't exactly just go out for hours at a time. Often every 30 or 40 minutes you have to meet up with a refueling tanker and get fuel loaded on board before you can go back to flying your mission. Hundreds of refueling missions are necessary every day. It's not easy because different aircraft refuel in different configurations at different altitudes. how were our military men and women in the U.S. Air Force plotting which tankers should go where? Any guesses? They were using a whiteboard. In World War II, they used a chalkboard, so at least there had been some innovation in the intervening years. But what had happened is one of the 5 prime contractors had been awarded a giant software modernization contract, and they were supposed to, in 10 years and for $750 million, update all the applications used in that combat air operations center, including the optimization algorithm that could automatically mate in the ideal configuration tankers with fighter aircraft. Eric Schmidt took one look at that whiteboard, turned to Raj and said, "Fix this. This is absurd." So we FedExed a bunch of iMacs to Qatar. We sent a few young Air Force officers who also knew how to program, 5 programmers from a Silicon Valley firm, and for $1.3 million in 132 days, coded an app that could do what took 43 person-hours a day in less than 30 seconds. That app now used across the Air Force saves our Air Force 24 million gallons of kerosene a year through its optimizations. This was one of many applications we immediately found for off-the-shelf commercial technology that needed no modification to go into a major platform of our military and make it much, much better. A few other examples of what we found in Silicon Valley. People, of course, associate Silicon Valley most of all with, say, software or cloud computing. But in fact, even as early as 2016, there were a number of hardware companies that were harnessing software to do things in new ways. One of them, based up in Alameda, is called Saildrone. This is a solar-powered autonomous sailcraft that can circle the globe for years on end. You can attach on it what's called in the military lingo an ISR package for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. That's not quite like a full-blown, say, destroyer's ISR package, but, you know, pretty good. And one of these costs, I don't know, 1/10,000th of the cost of operating a destroyer. So we engaged in a partnership with U.S. Southern Command, whose mission is to protect our southern borders, particularly the drug smuggling that happens in it, and used this autonomous technology deployed widely to replace what would have been far more expensive manned seaborne and airborne platforms. Another astonishing example of technology. This is an autonomous electric helicopter or VTOL aircraft made by a company named Joby. Far quieter, safer, and more effective than helicopters. The Air Force now has an operational squadron of Joby aircraft that they're testing at Edwards Air Force Base. This is another satellite, except does something that it would have taken in earlier years $1 billion spy satellite to do, again, for about 1/10,000th the cost. It was designed by a 26-year-old Stanford graduate student, and his first contract was with our office. Some of the weapons that are now being used in Ukraine also were something that was an early focus of our office. This is an underwater minesweeper whose mission effectiveness was enhanced by an order of magnitude through smarter commercial AI developed in it. Commercial drones is another. And just to wrap up before we get to Q&A, I'll leave you with a couple videos that show just how dramatically commercial technology is changing the battlefield today, because we're not the only military in the world that is experimenting with what low-cost technology can do. This is a video of a Russian kamikaze drone that costs perhaps $2,000, maybe $3,000 at most, smashing into a US-made M1A1 Abrams tanks, the most effective tank in the world. We supplied the Ukrainian military with 31 of them. More than half of them have been taken out by Russian kamikaze drones. That tells me that much in the same way that mechanized warfare, that tanks replace the cavalry, that man-mechanized warfare is likely very soon completely over. This is another shot from the Israeli border wall between the Gaza Strip and Israel. And what you're seeing a video here is Hamas using a commercially purchased DJI drone, one that we can buy at Best Buy or order on Amazon, to drop a small charge on one of the border security towers, this time on a machine gun. Other towers were filled with surveillance equipment. This is how a small number of very unsophisticated Hamas fighters surprised one of the most sophisticated militaries in the world on October 7th, kicking off the largest ground conflict in the Middle East in over a generation. So we, in fact, are in quite a race, it turns out, because our once superior technology edge has become equalized by the diffusion of technology globally. And what you're seeing today, not only through the Obama administration and the early Trump administration, which I served, but continuing on in the Biden administration and now this next Trump administration, is a massive pivot to make much more use of commercial technology and commercial innovation in our national security. Thank you.
Let's get our red badgers with microphones. There's some questions right here in the front, first to pop up.
And we have to have one question for the International House folks. That's mandatory.
Yeah, apparently because they're plotting a war. That's what I just heard. I don't know.
Yeah, hi, my name is Mike Gudo, and I spent 40 years supporting the Air Force, and I see in your business, and the FAR is the biggest problem to go fast. I don't want to waste time on that. You look familiar. Did you give a briefing at the classified session at Space Symposium when you were in the Obama administration, by any chance?
Quite possibly.
You shook up the room. It was pretty cool. The 4 stars were just
It
like...
was probably my colleague Bucky Buteau who gave that briefing, come to think of it.
Yeah,
This is called Space Prom, by the way. You should share that.
Yeah, in Colorado Springs, yeah. My question, though, is, so do you guys collaborate at all with Incatel, since you're both out here in the Valley?
Yeah, we sure do. So some of you may have heard of EQTEL, which the last few years has become much more public about its mission. EQTEL was established within the intelligence community as a small venture capital fund to make modest investments in companies whose technology aligned with an intelligence community mission, and then to see whether there could be a match between that technology and agencies that might want to use it. And we collaborate with them quite extensively. As you can imagine, a lot of the companies they work with, we also work with. They were one of the first people from the US government to really set up shop out here, and are another wonderful motor of innovation for our federal government.
Fantastic. Dave.
Thank you, President Heather. Thank you, Chris. Very enlightening talk. I guess I have 2 questions, if you don't mind. One is, what do you think the biggest impact that you've had on the defense procurement process over the last, I think is roughly 10 years since you started Unit X to today? And then the second question is, building off of that, what's the next big hurdle that you think the Defense Department needs to overcome?
Raj and I, in our second week in the office, met one of our staff members, a young woman named Lauren, whose father was an Army tank driver. And Lauren's way of serving was to become a civilian acquisition specialist. And because she's a super acquisition nerd, she stayed up late at night reading the 2,000 plus page National Defense Authorization Act. And in 2016, that act contained a provision in a Section 805 that was a few sentences long, snuck in there by a renegade Senate staffer, that dramatically expanded the department's ability to contract outside the FAR in a different way, using an authority called Other Transaction Authorities that throws out the playbook of having to have a whole separate set of rules. And Lauren made it possible to shrink a negotiation that under the FAR would take between 1.5 years to 2 years into a few weeks, and to require about 20 pages of paperwork rather than several thousand. But the key innovation in the law that really supercharged our efforts was the provision that said, if your technology does well in a pilot, it can immediately move to something called a production contract, without renegotiation, where anyone at the department can then buy that technology for themselves. So if you're a small firm who's not sure they actually want to do business with the government, hi, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help. But you can go from selling one of your products to 10,000. That's a very attractive offer. And because of Lauren's ingenuity and Secretary Carter's blessing, this was codified in a new department policy about 6 weeks later, and to date has been used to buy about $70 billion of commercial technology for the department. So that opens the door to a whole new way of doing business. The second step, though, to answer the question of what needs to happen next is much, much harder. That image you saw of an N1A1 Abrams battle tank getting destroyed by a cheap drone tells me, and should tell you, that if you're a military that's bought a lot of tanks, those tanks might not be as useful as you once thought they were. They might not be as valuable as they once were to a military plan. And if you look at the advent not only of autonomous, low-cost autonomous weapon systems like the Ukraine war has demonstrated, the fact that Ukraine autonomous boats have effectively kept the Russian Red Sea in port, and you look at hypersonic technology being developed by both China and Russia that would be very threatening to our Navy, you arrive at a point where most of the major weapons platforms that you associate today with the U.S. military, fighter aircraft, aircraft carriers, service combatants on the sea, tanks, no longer look very effective as tools in future wars. So the bigger challenge now is to recognize with clear eyes what technology is going to be coming at us on the battlefield, even if that means that we have to discard ways of fighting that we're very comfortable with, because for a long time we've been very good at them.
Fantastic. Suzanne. And then we'll go to Barbara in the back.
Thanks so much. That was fascinating. Question for you, Chris. Given all you've seen and the administrations you've served under, a lot of questions I could ask you right now, but the one that comes to mind for me is, given, the technology advances, are we safer now? How safe are we, Chris?
I think that relative military advantage is a tricky thing, and the world is, on the one hand, an incredible community that Rotarians help link together. It's also a place where small numbers of people can really cause a lot of harm. And so I think, just given how destabilizing 9/11 was, if you look at sort of the economic and global ramifications of a terrorist attack that really just cost a few $100,000 to pull off, that really makes me, anyway, as a strategic planner, want to have incredible capabilities to defend the nation and our allies, and importantly, really tremendous offensive capabilities as well to deter war. The last chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, is very fond of saying that none of us who are serving today have lived through a great power war, and we forget how astronomically destructive it is, how many millions of people lost their lives between the First and Second World War and the period in between. And so our highest duty should be to prevent the outbreak of another great power war. And right now that's going to mean outcompeting our adversaries in how we deploy and use new and emerging technologies.
Barbara.
Thank you. Fascinating. From what we know of Elon Musk, I would think he would be a fan of your work. I'm wondering how you expect your organization to fare during this Trump administration, and have you had any job cuts?
Well, we'll find out here real soon. I mean, I think that I've watched with a lot of trepidation the last few weeks. There's a really unique consensus in our country right now that we do need to make this turn towards commercial technology, that we need to make what have been costly and inefficient processes much more effective, because the global strategic environment is changing so fast that we really have no choice. But I've also learned in my time as a public servant that public institutions are very tricky things. And there's a lot more ways that things can go wrong when it comes to transformation than they can go right. And this is what makes public leadership so difficult, is you have far fewer tools than you do in the private sector to catalyze change, and you have far more barriers to change. So your margins are actually very narrow. So just one example, if, for instance, there was a decision by the city administration to terminate all employees that have served less than 3 years, that would mean that the Defense Innovation Unit would probably have to let go 2/3 of its active technological experts, because they've all been hired much more recently. I would probably also, I serve now a couple days a month in a volunteer capacity as a special government employee, which is unpaid. I would also, if that move goes through, likely lose my ability to legally contribute my time to the effort. So you have to be very careful how you go about implementing what is today, I think, a shared vision, so that you make the changes that you want to make, and not in trying to make those changes actually cause things that you did not want to happen.
Great. Steve.
Well, that brings to mind this whole issue of unintended consequences. Without getting political, can you talk about sort of some of those other things that you see? I mean, health, defense, state, all of those are areas of vulnerability to a major country like ours. Can you talk about that?
Well, I just think that, the Department of Defense is really a poster child when it comes to the opportunity for how things could work better. And what's really remarkable about it is everyone is frustrated with the situation and the system. The heads of prime contractors that aren't allowed to accumulate enough capital to actually buy startup companies and innovate from within the way that most large corporations do, is a great frustration. It's a great frustration to planners in the Department of Defense that, a program that was budgeted for a certain amount doubles in cost, and then you can't do something else that you had planned to do. It's most of all frustrating to people like Raj, who want to know which side of the border of Iran they're on. So there's frustrations all the way around. So there is, in fact, an urgent need for radical transformation. But, again, in defense, as in all places, you have to be very careful with how you go about that transformation, so that we don't end up worse off than we intend to be.
Very quick question and very quick answer from Ryan Sebastian.
Thank you. Most of my understanding is most commercial drones are made in China, and there's probably I don't know of American drones that can be made in the United States or are manufactured in the United States. How important is it to create a supply chain of commercially made drones in the United States?
Yeah, so China, through a company called DJI, has the predominant share of the global market for autonomous consumer drones. And as we've seen in Ukraine, there is essentially no difference today between the commercial and the military market for drones. So we realized back in 2017 at Defense Innovation Unit that unless there was an American manufacturer of drones able to innovate at the scale of DJI, that we would fail. And so we went about offering a series of commercial incentives for new drone companies to be formed here, and that effort is quite along the way. The company furthest along is called Skydio. Skydio is flying many systems today in Ukraine. So you're right, this is not only a question of identifying the technology that's going to be relevant, but making sure we actually have the supply chain to produce it. Because if you look at supply chains, we certainly don't have the most dominant in the world. And in fact, our one potential adversary, has us and the Europeans overmatched combined by quite a bit.
Chris, that was absolutely fascinating. Let's hear it for Chris. Stick around. A gift has been made in your name to the Dancing Cat Lounge, where you can hang out with cool socialized cats who are ready for adoption. Grab some tea, grab a cat. And every week I give the Premium Chandler Walnuts as my agricultural nerd gift. Come on over, let's get a photo. Go visit those orchards, you guys. It's inspiring.
My former boss, Leanne Panetta, who owns like an orchard, right? He'd be pricey. It's a walnut orchard, right, that he owns? Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I believe you'll be signing books in the lobby, is that right? All righty. Fantastic. Next week, as you heard earlier, we've got Brian Adams with the Academy Awards. Changing microphones. All right, here we go. And let's see. I'll be gone next week. I've got selected for this really cool national cohort, and they're sending me out to Miami. It was a selection of only 30 of us, so I'm pretty proud about that. And so you get your first taste of President-elect Matt Braker running the meeting next week. I know we'll take great care of you. Don't forget bowling tomorrow. And I think that's it. All right, we are adjourned.